Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with some really cool brand new dinosaur figures from Zuru Toys. It's been a little while since we had something new from them, and specifically a brand new line of dinosaurs. You can see we've got the Dino Mix and Match line, which is pretty interesting, and honestly these look like they have so much more promise than a lot of the figures that they've released over the years. But basically what you can see, you have dinosaurs that you can take all different parts from different dinosaurs that you collect and kind of combine them to make different hybrids and stuff, which could be fun for sure for some. You can see here basically what you see with this image is the Tyrannosaurus, the Dilophosaurus, and a Spinosaurus all combined, which is kind of neat. And again, there are obviously more species in the line than what you see there. I did grab 6 of these little balls or eggs or whatever you want to call them so that we can check out again what dinos we have inside these surprise eggs or whatever the heck you want to call them. So hopefully we've got some good ones, hopefully no repeats, but at the very least hopefully not many repeats. So let's start popping these open and check them out. So once you take all of the wrapping and everything off, you're left with a white kind of a ball, and as we open this up you can see we've got a whole bunch of stuff in this ball that we have to kind of move down. I'm just going to call them eggs. They're basically like surprise eggs. So we can see we have some sort of a goofy little Dino Mix and Match card in here, which shows off, basically what we saw on the front, that weird little hybrid that we had going on. If we move over here, this does show me the Spinosaurus, so I don't know for sure, but I would think that that means we do have the Spino here in this set, which could be pretty cool. And then we've also got the checklist of all of the different figures that are in this newest round. So there's the really rare T-Rex, which has a really neat color scheme, but unpainted teeth, unfortunately. Then we've got like your standard T-Rex right there. Then as we move through, we have an Ankylosaurus. You've also got a brand new version of a Therizinosaurus, which is pretty cool. The Spinosaurus, the Dilophosaurus, which we already saw that. And then we also have a Styracosaurus in this line. So pretty cool overall. Now let's open these up. Oh, looks like we've also got slime. So just in case you are a fan of slime, as you can see, there is Dino Mix and Match slime as well, which I am not going to mess with because I have zero interest in slime, but I am interested in the dinosaur that we have. So, well, I think that confirms it is absolutely the Spinosaurus. So we'll get all of the parts out here for the Spino. We've also got some more parts in here. So some more stuff we need to kind of throw down here. As you can see, we're left with quite the mess, so let's go ahead, assemble this, and check it out. So there is our Spinosaurus now assembled and definitely looking pretty cool. And I will say that I am impressed with the fact that these newer figures are so much easier to put together than the older ones. The older ones were an absolute nightmare sometimes. I would end up with like sore fingers by the time I was done trying to press all of the pieces together. These new ones don't really have that problem. They also kind of feature more articulation. So if you actually start here in the head sculpt of the Spino, you can see the Spino looks pretty cool. It does have painted teeth. You've got a nice pink for the inside of the mouth, as well as a light yellowish tone for the lower jaw, green for the eye with a little bit of a darker tone there around the eye actually, and you even have a darker tone up here for the crest on the top of the head of the Spinosaurus. But you've got swivel articulation basically right here, which you can completely swivel upside down. I wish there was an articulated jaw. Unfortunately there is not, but still pretty cool to have articulation right there. And then you can also swivel the neck, so you can get some pretty interesting poses for the Spinosaurus, which is cool. You also have the ability to articulate the arms, which can swivel basically around. Same deal for the legs, forward and back. And you can swivel the tail as well. So quite a bit of articulation, honestly, for a Zuru Toys figure. You have like a red-orange for the primary body color of the Spinosaurus, a dark brown that moves over the sail. Obviously, the figure is extremely stylized, which is pretty much the, standard for the Zuru figures. Unfortunately, we don't have painted hand claws, but we do have painted toe claws, which look super silly with the way that they're sculpted. We also have like some crazy like metallic blue injuries on the Spinosaurus. I don't know what the idea is behind that, but it does kind of look cool at least. If you come over to this side though, you don't have any crazy injuries for the Spino, which is nice. But overall, the fine detail looks pretty nice, and the figure as a whole, I would say, is probably one of the more fun Zuru Toys figures that I have seen in quite some time. So we're going to move him over and then see who we have in the next one. So of course, we're going to have the same stuff inside as far as the packaging goes. Just throwing stuff off to the side, and oh, I think we would have the Dilophosaurus this time, so that's great news because that means we don't have a repeat. And kind of looks like the card, yes, the card is a little bit different, so maybe the card kind of tells you, because this one definitely is more of a Spinosaurus look until you turn it, and then it looks all, you know, hybridish. And this one definitely, see, you can see the Dilophosaurus until you turn it and it turns into a hybrid, so that's pretty neat. So I think that pretty much confirms that this is in fact the Dilophosaurus, who has the absolute most vibrant green that I have pretty much ever seen in my life. That is a crazy, crazy vibrant green. And of course, we're just going to have to assemble the figure quickly, but just to show you again how easily they go together, make sure I have the right piece. Watch how easy I can push this in. Now it's in. That was so simple. So much easier than a lot of the older ones. So there is the Dilophosaurus now assembled, and one thing that's pretty cool, you can see there's a separate piece here on the back where the top of the Dilophosaurus goes into, so you could technically take like the sail of the Spinosaurus and then put it into the back of the Dilophosaurus. Again, that kind of mix and match gimmick that they have for these figures, which is pretty cool. But if you start here in the head, you can see the Dilophosaurus looks pretty decent. You know, the actual fine detail isn't half bad. We've got a blue eye with a darker blue kind of around it. You have a darker blue up there in the crest of the Dilophosaurus. The teeth are super small inside the mouth, but they are painted, which is nice. We as well have a pinkish tone for the inside of the mouth of the dinosaur. You have a frill, so of course a very Jurassic Park look for the Dilo, which is very common when it comes to the Zuru Toys figures. I don't know if they've ever made a Dilophosaurus that didn't include the Jurassic Park frill. You have again the vibrant green in the frill, but it does transition nice and smoothly out to a dark blue for the outer edges of the frill. As you move along the back, you've got some like scoots or osteoderms following the spinal column. You as well have, similar to the other one, a random blue injury, but it's not quite as cool as what we had seen on the Spino, and it's also not sculpted in. This one's just painted. The other one actually was sculpted in. We do, of course, have some articulation, so you can swivel the head of the figure. You can also move the neck, I would think. Yep, we can swivel the neck. You as well can move the arms, the legs, and the tail can all swivel. You have a really sharp curve to the tail right there. Again, the claws on the feet are painted. They do also feature a gloss coat. No paintwork for the claws on the hands, sadly, but it is overall a pretty darn cool looking Dilophosaurus. I actually really like this line. This might be my favorite line of these smaller type of Zuru figures to come so far. The next one that we have is hopefully not one that we've already opened, and somewhere in here we're going to have a spoiler telling us who it is, and I think it is actually the T-Rex. I was about to say it's the Spino because I saw the red color again, but I think it's the T-Rex, and if it is this T-Rex, would that not mean that this is the rare one? Maybe? I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to open it up and find out. Of course, we've got all of the other stuff that we had in each one. So let's rip this open. Oh, it's not the rare one. Okay, so for some reason on the card it looks red, but in reality it's actually more of an orange color. But still good news that we have not had a repeat yet. Now I probably just cursed myself by saying that. So there is our Tyrannosaurus now, assembled and looking pretty interesting. You have a really vibrant orange. That's one thing about these figures that you will absolutely either like or hate, and that is the fact that they all have really vibrant colors. Like, none of them have like natural, more dull sort of coloration, but they all seem to stand pretty nicely, which is also a plus. Again, very stylized as far as the sculpt goes. I remember there was a time where Zuru did release a T-Rex that actually wasn't all that stylized and was a pretty cool figure, but this one absolutely very stylized in their standard, very exaggerated look. We do have a yellow tone for the lower jaw. The teeth are very big and bulky and ugly, but they're painted with a yellowish tone, so it's always nice to have the teeth all painted completely. And obviously we have a pinkish or a reddish tone for the inside of the mouth. Fairly decent detail in there. A yellow for the eye. Kind of has like a pupil, but the pupil is like the dark red that we have there bordering around the eye. As you move back, you of course have articulation. So first of all, you have this spot that kind of articulates, but it kind of falls off when you start to move it. So you can twist it a little bit. You also have articulation in the neck. Articulation, of course, in the arms, the legs, and then the tail. I feel like some of these are just a little bit too bright for my camera to handle. It also has, again, some decent detail moving through the entire body. Not a whole lot when it comes to paintwork. The claws are painted on the feet, which is nice. We have another metallic tone of color. It looks like, I think, the same metallic. Yes, looks like it's the same metallic blue that we had on the Spinosaurus when it comes to the injuries here on the leg. You also see a yellow tone as you transition out there through the tail toward the tip, which has a strong curve to it. But again, really cool looking figure. I actually am really enjoying these super exaggerated dinos. So the next one is, wow, we are doing so good. This is the Ankylosaurus, it looks like. So I'm really hoping to actually get the Therizinosaurus. I don't know why, but I really want that Therizinosaurus. I think he looks really cool. But obviously, again, that's now another one that we didn't have prior. And this one actually looks to be maybe the first one that doesn't have crazy bright, ridiculous coloration to it. So I just got done saying how none of them seem to have realistic color. Well, now they've proven me wrong. So there is our Ankylosaurus, but this is almost like if the Ankylosaurus were a turtle, because you can see it actually extends out, like the back extends out over the body in almost like a shell-like fashion. And they do that because you can then pull the top off. And again, like I said earlier, you could pull off the top of the sail of the Spinosaurus and put it in there. And look, it actually fits perfectly, which is the kind of mix and match idea of these figures, which honestly, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, is genius on the part of Zuru Toys. Like, I feel like that's something that everybody, adults and kids alike, would really enjoy, having the ability to kind of make the craziest hybrids. But you can see, again, the head sculpt looks pretty decent. You've got blue eyes, a dark brown for the primary body, a yellow for the beak. The yellow does run onto the underside of the head. You as well have those spikes painted with the yellow, but these ones unfortunately did not get that treatment. There is a pinkish tone for the inside of the mouth. Articulation-wise, you can, of course, swivel the head right there. You can as well swivel the neck, so you've got the ability to move those areas. The legs, of course, are going to articulate. Same deal with the rear legs and the tail. But I think, oh, look at that. I was going to say if we go up this way, it might actually push off the back of the dinosaur, but it doesn't. The fine detail looks really good moving through the figure. You do have an orange over the back, again, of our shell, because it doesn't really look like a standard back of an Ankylosaurus. Nice curve to the tail that leads out to an orange again for the club tail. The detail on the underside also looks pretty nice. Overall, it's definitely quite highly detailed. And then you do, of course, also have an injury over here in the leg, with the only one that actually has something close to the coloration you might actually see on a real injury. But the Ankylosaurus as well is pretty cool, and the fact that he has such a turtley look to him is really neat, almost making him have like an old school dinosaur movie style. So this one's already starting to pop open here as I'm opening it up, and it looks like we actually have the Styracosaurus this time. So another one that we did not have prior. Actually, there's the card, and I already dropped it. There's the card for you to see. So obviously you can see again, it is the Styracosaurus that then turns into a crazy hybrid. So we'll open this one up. This one's definitely back to the bright, crazy colors. No doubt about that. Very bright yellowish tones for this one. So there is our very bright yellow Styracosaurus, and as you can see, that one's pretty cool looking, not too shabby. It's got some nice looking fine detail. Again, some okay paintwork. You've got a brown for the beak, brown for the horn, a brown under the eye, and then a blue eye. You also have a brown that runs up and over the top of the frill. You do have a weird spot for articulation on this one, because you can technically swivel the head here before the frills, so pretty strange. But then you can, of course, also swivel the neck, the legs, all the same stuff that you've seen the entire way through, and of course the tail. You do have some nice looking fine detail on this one, just like you've had the entire way through. It's just so bright, I don't think I'd want to bring it close to really show that off. You do have some injuries on it as well, again with a nice reddish tone for the bloody look, I guess. You have it on the thigh as well as the tail. As you turn here, you actually can see you have the brown on the back of the frill as well. Turn over here, you've got a pretty cool look to it. Almost reminds me of like the Dinosaur sideshow Styracosaurus when it comes to the pose, with like the one leg lifting up off of the ground and everything kind of like rearing up. So pretty cool looking Styracosaurus as well. Now the question is the last one a different figure or one that we've already had? So we're about to find out, and I actually think it's a different figure. It is the Brachiosaurus. So I think I might have actually got every one of the figures except for the one that I said I wanted, which was the Therizinosaurus. Yeah, of course I didn't get the rare T-Rex either, but pretty much got them all except for that one and the rare T-Rex then, which I guess I'm going to have to go back and see if I can find those. That'll be tricky. But this one is in a greenish coloration. Looks like it's going to be pretty cool. Get all the parts out here and then remove the packaging here. And we do also have, again, that little card, which you can see here, or token sort of thing. I don't know what you would even call it. This one doesn't look like it's got a lot going on as far as its hybrid aspect goes, except for the tail changing. So let's get this one assembled and then we'll check it out. So there is the Brachiosaurus now assembled, and honestly I would say it's probably the nicest sauropod that they have released so far. Like, that neck actually has some really nice genuine length to it. The tail is of course short, but I mean, the tail isn't really all that long on a Brachiosaurus. The head sculpt does have a bit of a Jurassic Park Brachiosaurus sort of a look, with, of course, the exaggerated look and style of the Zuru figures. We can see the teeth are sculpted out and painted inside the mouth. We also have a purple or a blue, kind of actually looks like a purple there around the eye, and then you have a lighter tone for the eye. You also have a pink for the inside of the mouth. The detail looks really good. You've got a really nice twist in the neck for the figure. You can, I don't know if you can, oh yeah, absolutely, I forgot. You can swivel the head right here, so you can articulate that spot. You can also swivel the neck right here, again articulating that area. Same deal with the legs and the tail. And then you have that, again, darker purplish sort of a tone that moves down along the back of the neck, transitions away as you move down into the body. Then you have that tone that follows along the side of the dinosaur before completely disappearing. This side, I guess we have some sort of a weird infection, because we have like a yellow that just shows up for no reason on the legs, but well, actually just on the rear leg. But again, you've also got this super muscular front leg picking up off of the ground. One downside to this one, and actually the Styracosaurus, is we don't have any paintwork for the nails at all on either, which is a little bit sad, because you know, most of them at least had painted toe claws, just not hand claws. And I guess when it comes to the quadrupedal figures, they don't get any paintwork for the claws at all. Same deal with the Ankylosaurus, actually, now that I go back and check that out. As far as sizes go, I don't think we're going to measure each and every one. There's just so many, and this wasn't even really meant to be like a full-blown review. It was more so just like an unboxing, but we kind of did a little bit of a review as well. So you can see, again, everybody that we have here when it comes to these figures. But there is all of these figures next to Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being. And when it comes to these mix and match dinos, you can see again that they are, you know, pretty close to the same size as the older Dino Strike figures, but they're definitely a little bit bigger. So that is something to keep in mind. If you do have the Dino Strike figures, which I was a big fan of for their Dino Riders feel, these are absolutely in a similar size, but definitely a little bit bigger than those. So that should pretty much give you a pretty good idea as far as the size of these figures as a whole. We also have a Mattel and Captives minifigure stepping in here for a comparison to kind of give you another idea of the fact that they're not quite minis. And then a Mattel Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus, showing you that those figures are a bit larger than these Zuru figures. And here we have one of the recently released Rebirth cup toppers, the Mosasaurus, and you can see those figures are pretty much right there in the same size range as these Mix and Match Zuru figures. Unfortunately, I actually recently put all of my Zuru Dino Strike figures and everything into storage because they just weren't really meshing too well with what I have on display here. So I don't have any to compare with these guys, but just know they are a little bit bigger than the older ones. So these brand new Zuru Toys Dino Mix and Match figures are pretty cool, honestly. I would say they're one of my favorite lines to come from Zuru Toys so far. I think sculpt-wise, they all look really nice. The paintwork is fairly decent, nothing really to write home about, but decent enough. I love the fact that every single figure here is a brand new sculpt, something I've been waiting for a very long time from this brand because they just kind of reuse figures time and time again, and they used to incorporate new species into their lines, but for the longest time they kind of stopped, and I would say all of these figures have actually been released in older lines from Zuru, but it is still nice to see a fresh take on all of them, and I think they're very cool, very fun, very highly detailed, and they also have some fun playability to them, of course, with a good bit of articulation, more so than they used to have, but also the fact that you can mix and match all of the different dino pieces to kind of create your own weird hybrids is a really cool idea, and definitely very nicely utilized here. So if you are interested in these, I found these guys at Target, so make sure you head to your local Target, check them out in store. They retail for around like $5 each, so not too expensive either. And of course, pick them up again at Target or wherever you might be able to find them, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.